So Christmas, it's going to be big in 2011. 2010 last year, it was 49 billion spent in the UK in December 2010 by UK consumers, and that as a percentage of online was 7.9 billion. Yeah, great. So online spending was 7.9 billion by consumers. So as a percentage total, that was 17%. And what was the growth of online? It was actually 16.5%. So if you're thinking about your retail business and your online side of the business, if it didn't grow by 16.5% in December 2010, you're actually behind the curve. So this year, make sure that you get the full opportunity and take full advantage of it, which I'm going to talk about today. Great. Okay, so the elusive month, December 2012, how it will actually fall this year. So I'm going to talk about what you should be doing beforehand, during the month of December, and as well afterwards. So beforehand, you should be looking at, as a retailer, your stock, your pricing, your budgets. Hopefully a lot of your stock will already be ordered in, but you should also be looking at what happened for you last year in this space, in terms of what happened on site, what keywords were working well, what keywords didn't work well, was there any missed opportunities, did you get a lot of the mobile traffic or tablet traffic that we saw last year, or for instance, if your delivery date was too early before guaranteeing for Christmas, can you make advantage of it this year, for instance, by guaranteeing delivery by a certain date in your ad text? Or, for instance, collect in store that a lot of multi-channel retailers are actually using now, and a big advantage over the pure play retailers. So just looking at the big day in December is Mondays. So last year they fell on the 5th, 12th and 19th were the Mondays. So Cyber Monday, it's depicted that it's the ending Monday in the month of November within the UK. But Amazon, eBay and John Lewis have confirmed that it's actually the 5th is their biggest day. And from everything that we've seen the last few years, it's that first Monday and the second Monday of December that are the biggest. The third Monday this year has a great opportunity of being as big as those days, because the delivery is so far away. It's guaranteed pretty much for the 25th. So it'll be a great opportunity to actually get as much traffic as possible on those Mondays. So looking at queries in terms of retail queries on Google, this is looking at, in terms of queries, what's happened year over year. So 2011 over 2010, queries actually grew at a rate of 18%. And what we're forecasting for this year is similar growth of 19%. How we get this growth is we run a whole host of algorithms based on previous years. And the one key thing is, it's starting earlier and it's getting more intense every year. The starting earlier piece in terms of paid search, and people are really familiar with paid search, it's so important to make sure that you're in the auctions early on in terms of your new Christmas campaigns. Because if you enter those auctions when they become most competitive, during the period at the start of November, once the conversion rate actually peaks, you might be too late getting into those auctions. You won't have the quality score and you won't have the click-through rate built up in time for the peak of Christmas. So just looking at paid search metrics in particular, this is looking at the metrics here: conversion rate, cost per click in red, and cost per acquisition in green. So what I'm looking at here is we aggregated all our retailers within the UK for Christmas 2010, and what we looked at was the CPC, conversion rate and CPA aggregated to one of all of those accounts. So as you can see, if we look at conversion rate, so conversion rate started here in 27th of September, it stayed pretty static right up 25th of October, and then took a leap of 10% roughly the first week of November. So as consumers, and as you're aware, purchasing yourselves, for instance in apparel, it takes 27 days on average online to conversion. So a lot of the research is taking place before the conversion rate actually peaks in October, and then in November it actually peaks by 25% over the average rate in October. But what advertisers are doing in terms of the CPC metric here, you can see it going up in line with the conversion rate. But once it comes to this, the end of November, when conversion rate really peaks, the CPC is coming down, even though the conversion rate is getting better and the cost per acquisition is getting much cheaper. And the reason for this is that advertisers aren't staying competitive enough during that prime time when you can actually have the best conversion rate and the best return for your advertising money. So what's key during this period is managing bids. It's just literally managing bids to make sure that you keep visible in those auctions, because your competitors will no doubt, if they have a good online PPC strategy, be increasing bids constantly on a daily basis by making sure to stay top of that auction and not to go down in the auction, to get market share. So then moving on to mobile. So mobile, and when I talk about mobile as well here, I'm talking about smartphones and tablet devices. So 25% of all retail queries in Google as of last week are on mobile, smartphone and tablet devices. And it's growing at a rate of 147% year on year. So if you just think about that, if the pace of this growth keeps up to next year, we'll see that there'll be more searches on Google within the UK on retail, on smartphones and tablets than desktop. So this is a massive change that's taking place. And as Warren said, the media mix is getting more complicated as time goes on. But now tracking consumers, for instance, is going to get harder and harder with multiple devices and multiple browsers. So you're really going to have a strategy that makes sense for your company to open up to this new traffic, and it's a good opportunity to get new traffic if you can lead in this space. So 147% year-on-year growth compared to 15% on desktop. And this traffic, sorry, just go back one first of all. This traffic, if we look at the peak here, for instance, in green, which is the mobile index, it peaks in sale period, so just after Christmas, Boxing Day and the sale period. And this is because there's a flood of devices into the market, first of all, at Christmas, presents and gifts. But then there's a massive peak because people are actually out and about looking for local information with their smartphone devices. So if you're a multi-channel retailer, it's an amazing opportunity to try and drive traffic to store. But as well, because a lot of that traffic might not typically convert online, but more in store, so the online to store. So for instance, a local search in Google Maps during this time period looking for Urban Outfitters. So 20% of searches that we see on desktop are local intent, while that number changes to 40% when it's actually on smartphones. So you can see that local intent is so much more. And then moving on from that, of people who actually convert, who actually purchase as a result of doing a smartphone purchase, this survey found that 20% purchase in store. So as you can imagine, if you have your e-commerce team and you're managing your budget to a cost percentage ratio, as most retailers do, you're never going to see these conversions take place on your smartphone devices or browsers. It's just going to look like Google sent me clicks, but they didn't convert on my desktop or smartphone devices, for instance, which you can't read between either. So it's really about opening up to that traffic and that opportunity. And 22% of this traffic made an online purchase as a result, so either on a desktop or a smartphone. But once again, the tracking of this is getting harder, and it's going to be harder to actually, the metrics that we've usually looked at in the past, it's going to get harder to keep measuring them as more devices come into the market, people get more devices, and we can't track them across devices, but also the amount and volume of mobile and smartphone usage just increases. But there's a big opportunity in terms of PPC, pay-per-click. So as you can see, these are average retail benchmarks from Q4 2011. And what it's showing is the average CPC on desktop is 33 pence, tablet 28 pence, mobile 17. A tablet auction since this slide has gotten more competitive. As I'm sure you're aware, and from what we've heard from a lot of retailers, the average order value tends to be a lot more on tablet devices. We personally think it has something to do with demographics, that iPad, the main device, is actually so expensive that it's quite an affluent shopper. But as well, online retailers can, a lot of the time, consumers convert on these devices. So online retailers or advertisers can see these conversions come in on tablet when they mightn't necessarily see this on tablet. But as time goes on, these auctions will become more intense, and we expect them to become more in line with desktop. But there's a big opportunity there right now to get cheaper CPCs within these auctions by device. And if you're not aware, you can target all campaigns by device in Google AdWords for pay-per-click advertising. And you can even go down to device level, for instance. So you can have a different ad creative for iPhone users, iPad users over Android users. So getting Christmas right. So first of all, research, plan ahead and start early. Start early is key, as I mentioned earlier, just getting into those auctions in terms of PPC. Research, plan ahead. Look at external information like Google Insights for search is great for looking at keywords over time to see what trends there was in retail, for instance. Use the Greenlight reports, for instance, to see what kind of market share you had last year within SEO and PPC. Use your own Google Analytics, which is the richest type of information, not Google Analytics, whatever analytics package you use, to see what keywords worked well, what you want to do this year, what you want to do differently. And then capture the mobile opportunity. So this mobile opportunity, it's going to be even bigger this Christmas. There'll be another flood of devices into the market once Christmas Day starts. We expect it to get up to 30-35% of traffic as of Christmas this year. And then make sure you don't fall out of auctions. So once again, keep monitoring your bids once the conversion rate goes up, because it'll be 12 months before this quality traffic comes around once again next year, and make sure you get the most of it. And lastly, drive traffic to store. If you have a multi-channel proposition, brilliant. And for instance, if you can't deliver, if you can't guarantee deliver just before Christmas, why not change your ad text messaging to actually try and drive people in store, or make them aware that you've collection in store, for instance. And if you do have a very late delivery date, very close to Christmas, make sure that you get that visible in your ad text as well. And that's everything. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Dennis.